Welcome into the Huddle Up Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Sharp, and we are back off of our little hiatus. It's been about 2 weeks since we've been here, just been swamped with that little thing called life, but we are back in a big way today. I want to talk about the free agent quarterbacks left, a couple big-time names, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, where they may end up. That's coming up right now here on the Huddle Up Podcast. Two of the biggest names left in free agency in terms of quarterbacks is Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, and both of them may be on new teams. Rodgers for sure, but there's a question mark about whether or not Russell Wilson should return to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it seems right now that there are three teams kind of in waiting game mode for quarterbacks. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, four really. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants, and the Minnesota Vikings. It's very clear that Aaron Rodgers does not want to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Pittsburgh, their number one target is Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson has a chance to go back to there. Russell Wilson has taken a visit to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland seems to want Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson doesn't want to go to the Cleveland Browns. The New York Giants, they're going to kind of take what's left over. For them, it kind of seems like it's Aaron Rodgers or bust. If Rodgers goes to them over the Steelers, great. If not, well, they're in quarterback purgatory once again. But the Minnesota Vikings are the interesting one in this entire ordeal because you would think that Minnesota has their own quarterback already. They spent a first-round pick on J.J. McCarthy in last year's NFL draft, and it was reported that he was set to be the starting quarterback until he tore that Achilles. He's apparently fully healthy, but Aaron Rodgers apparently has made it known that he wants to go to the Minnesota Vikings. That is his landing spot of choice. He's pulling the full-on Brett Favre, if you will. Minnesota has not accepted it, but they haven't said no either. And I think that's a problem for Minnesota. You got to give J.J. McCarthy his opportunity. I get it. He's only been in the league 1 year, but this is a guy you invested a first-round pick in. And if he's as good as you say he was last year going into the season, then you should have no problem. It was reported that he beat out Sam Darnold for that starting job. Okay, well, Sam Darnold was great last year once J.J. McCarthy went down. McCarthy should slide in there no problem, right? What does Aaron Rodgers bring to the table? He's going to be a lot more money than J.J. McCarthy. You can say, okay, well, he'll help J.J. grow into a pro. Will he? Because there's always been kind of mixed reports on his relationship with Jordan Love when they were in Green Bay. Was it good? Was it bad? There's always kind of been that mixture reporting. Right? So how much would Aaron Rodgers actually be willing to help a guy like a J.J. McCarthy? If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They want you. They're a team right there that's always competing for playoff spots. You have one of the best coaches in the NFL in Mike Tomlin. And why would you want to go to the New York Giants? There is nothing that the New York Giants are better at than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nothing. They're better at tanking on quarterbacks. Now, the Steelers haven't been great at that in recent years either, but they're better than the New York Giants. So it seems right now that Pittsburgh Steelers want Aaron Rodgers. He prefers the Minnesota Vikings and maybe even the New York Giants over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's bring in Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson went on a visit to the Cleveland Browns. They apparently want him. He doesn't really seem like he wants to be in Cleveland. So where does that leave Russell Wilson? It seems like he wants to be in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wants Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be in Pittsburgh. I think whichever one flinches first between Rodgers or Wilson, it's going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of them. And then things are going to fall in place. Does Minnesota go get another veteran quarterback? Do they finally decide to give J.J. McCarthy a shot? What did the Giants do? Did they take a quarterback early in the draft? Did they go get someone in free agency? I think Pittsburgh Steelers, out of all of these, are the team to watch. And you can say, okay, well, the Cleveland Browns are interested in Russell Wilson as well. Correct. But they also signed Kenny Pickett about 2 weeks ago. I think that's fine because you're not getting rid of Deshaun Watson. He has too big of a contract and nobody's going to trade for him. Bring in Kenny Pickett. Let him be your starter while Deshaun Watson heals up. Look, his numbers were better in Pittsburgh than a lot of us remember. It was 15-10 as a starting quarterback in Pittsburgh. More touchdowns than interceptions. I mean, he wasn't great, but he got thrown in there early on. He won 66% of his games. That's way better than what Aaron Rodgers did last season with the New York Jets. I say roll with Kenny Pickett. He's a cheap option. He's a guy that started a couple games last year due to the injury of Jalen Hurts, and he played well. Now, he ultimately got hurt as well, and Tanner McKee had to come in. But Kenny Pickett, look, when he's on the field, he's actually better than a lot of people think. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, though, I do everything I can to bring back Russell Wilson. Look, 16 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions a year ago. Now, the 16 touchdowns is low, but two things. One, they ran the ball a ton. Secondly, he didn't start the whole season because he began the season injured. That's why Justin Fields got the start for the first 6 games of the season. What does Aaron Rodgers bring you right now that Russell Wilson doesn't? Don't say Super Bowl wins because Russell Wilson has a Super Bowl win more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Don't say playoff production because outside of that Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers has about a 500 record in the playoffs. He gets there a lot. He's not very successful when he's there. And was Aaron Rodgers tremendously better than Russell Wilson a year ago? I don't think so. You look at the numbers, they're about the same. I mentioned 16 touchdowns, 5 picks for Russell Wilson. Both of those are low because he missed the first 6 games. Aaron Rodgers, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He was a little bit better than people want to give him credit for, but was he markedly better than Russell Wilson? If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm bringing Russell Wilson back. You already moved on from Justin Fields. Bring the guy back who is in your building, who has familiarity with the coaching staff, who has some sort of relationship with Mike Tomlin. Because let's be honest, I don't think Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin can coexist. I really don't. At this point in his career, I think Aaron Rodgers is more trouble than what he's worth bringing in. Zach Wilson had a better winning percentage with the New York Jets than Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers handpicked that team. Zach Wilson did not have Devontae Adams. He did not have a two-headed monster running back. He had Robert Saleh, but, Aaron Rodgers is, depending on what you think, one of the reasons that that Robert Saleh was let go. It's a weird quarterback carousel with about 3 or 4 teams right now, all centered around 2 guys, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I think all of this is going to depend on what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. Do they land Wilson? Do they land Rodgers? I think if they land Wilson, Aaron Rodgers is going to go to the Giants because I think Minnesota needs to pull their name out. Pull your name out of the running for both of these guys. Go with J.J. McCarthy. You may have to take your lumps. Go with J.J. McCarthy. Give him his opportunity. You obviously trusted him enough a year ago before that injury. Word is he's fully recovered from that. What are you waiting on now? And if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm down between 2 teams, the Cleveland Browns or the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where do I really want to go? First off, I'm calling up Pittsburgh and be like, if you don't want me, tell me now and I'm gone. But Pittsburgh needs to act first. Minnesota doesn't necessarily need a quarterback. Cleveland doesn't necessarily need a quarterback because you got J.J. McCarthy and Kenny Pickett in those 2 spots. New York, they obviously need a quarterback, but they're one of the top 3 picks in the draft. Pittsburgh is the team that needs a quarterback more than all of these other 4 teams that we have talked about. Take Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers clearly doesn't want to be there. I don't know if Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers would get along personality-wise. Because here's the thing. If you wait on Aaron Rodgers long enough, Russell Wilson's going to move on. Maybe he takes that Cleveland Browns offer. Hell, maybe he goes to the New York Giants. We'll see what kind of relationship forms there. And then Aaron Rodgers is like, nope, I'm going to the Giants or I'm going to the Vikings. If the Pittsburgh Steelers don't act quick, they're going to go to the prom without a date, if you will. Call Russell Wilson in this right now. Have your quarterback for next year. That's what you got to do. Aaron Rodgers clearly doesn't want to be there. And look, I'm not a huge fan of either one of them, but at this point in their career, considering the money they make, I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers is a significant step up from a guy like Russell Wilson. We'll see what happens. It'll certainly be interesting. Again, it's a stalemate of about 4 teams. The Steelers, Vikings, Giants, and Browns. Those are kind of the 4 teams we're watching, and it all boils down to Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, what they do, which teams they go to, who's going to be left without a quarterback. All right, tomorrow we're going to be right back here again. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They are signing big-name players, but I think it's at all the wrong positions. We'll get into that. That'll be next time on the Huddle Up Podcast. Again, if you liked what you heard here, please like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you next time.